There was once a man named Socrates, a philosopher who roamed the streets of ancient Athens, wearing the same robe every day, possessing nothing more than a pair of sandals and a stick. Despite his lack of material possessions, he was considered one of the wisest men to have ever lived. He spent his days in discourse, questioning the Athenians about their beliefs, constantly challenging them to seek truth and wisdom rather than running after material wealth. Now imagine for a moment if Socrates, instead of traveling through life with just his robe and sandals, had to lug around a wagon filled with gold and silver coins, priceless artifacts, and heavy robes of silk and velvet. Would he have been able to engage in those enlightening dialogues, which often lasted for hours on end? Or would he have been too preoccupied with the fear of losing his possessions, the worry of them being stolen, or the mere physical exhaustion of dragging them around? This is the philosophy of traveling light. But it's not just about physical possessions. It's also about the mental burdens we carry with us wherever we go. Like Socrates, we can choose to unburden ourselves, to let go of the heavy load of material possessions and mental clutter that is holding us back. Have you ever noticed how much lighter you feel when you're traveling with just a backpack rather than a suitcase? How much more freedom you have when you're not weighed down by stuff? But the philosophy of traveling light extends far beyond just our journeys across the globe. Imagine applying this principle to your everyday life. Minimalism, as a way of life, is about more than just decluttering your living space or owning fewer things. It's about clarifying your values, focusing on what truly matters. It's about letting go of the non-essential, the distractions, the clutter, both physical and mental. It's about traveling through life with agility and flexibility, unburdened by unnecessary baggage. Take a moment to think about the material possessions you own. How many of them do you actually need? How many of them add value to your life? And how many of them are just weighing you down? But as I mentioned earlier, minimalism is not just about material possessions. It's also about mental clutter. Think about all the resentment, regrets, worries, expectations, and fears that you carry around with you every day. Are they not heavier than any physical object you could own? So how do we start to travel light? How do we begin to live a minimalist lifestyle, both in terms of our possessions and our mindset? First, we need to examine our own lives, our own beliefs, just as Socrates would have us do. We need to question why we hold on to certain things, be they material possessions or mental burdens. Once we understand that, we can begin to let go. And the benefits of this lifestyle are many: less stress, more freedom, more time, more joy. Just as Socrates found wisdom and clarity through his minimalist lifestyle, so too can we find a deeper sense of meaning and fulfillment by choosing to travel light. So, let's embark on this journey together. Let's learn from the wisdom of Socrates and the principles of minimalism, and let's discover the joy and freedom of traveling light. It's time to unburden ourselves, to let go of the unnecessary, and to focus on what truly matters. It's time to travel light through life. Consider the tale of King Midas. Enchanted by riches, he was granted a wish that everything he touched would turn to gold. At first, he reveled in the luxury, the glittering wealth that was literally at his fingertips. But soon, he realized the curse of his wish. When he touched his food, it turned to gold. When he embraced his beloved daughter, she too turned into a lifeless statue of gold. In his desire for material wealth, he lost what truly mattered to him. This ancient myth serves as a powerful reminder about the dangers of excessive materialistic desires. Like King Midas, we too often get caught in the lure of material wealth, thinking that more possessions will make us happier, more secure. But do they really? Or do they simply weigh us down, both physically and emotionally? Consider for a moment the concept of hoarding. It's something that we're all guilty of to some extent. Whether it's clothes we never wear, gadgets we never use, or mementos we never look at, most of us have more stuff than we truly need or even want. But why do we hold on to these things? Is it out of a sense of security, a fear of scarcity, or the simple convenience of having something just in case we might need it someday? But the truth is, the more we accumulate, the more we have to worry about. More stuff to clean, to organize, to maintain. More stuff to lose, to break, to replace. The physical weight of our possessions can become a mental burden, causing stress and anxiety. It's not just the things we own that can weigh us down. Our minds too can become cluttered with unwanted thoughts, worries about the future, regrets about the past, and negative emotions. These mental burdens can be just as heavy, if not heavier, than any physical possession. What if we could learn to let go of these burdens? What if we could learn to travel light, not just in terms of our material possessions, but also in terms of our thoughts and emotions? It's a concept that's found in various philosophical systems around the world. Stoicism, a philosophy that originated in ancient Greece, teaches us to focus on what we can control and let go of what we can't. Buddhism, too, emphasizes the importance of letting go, of freeing ourselves from our attachments to material possessions and our clinging to specific thoughts and emotions. By learning to let go, we can lighten our load and travel through life with more ease, more joy, and more freedom. We can become like a leaf on the wind, moving with the flow of life rather than against it. Personally, I have found that traveling light not only makes life more enjoyable but also more fulfilling. With less stuff to worry about, I have more time to focus on what truly matters to me. I have more energy to pursue my passions, to connect with others, and to contribute to the world in a meaningful way. Traveling light, then, is not just about owning less stuff. It's about freeing up space, both physical and mental, for what truly matters. It's about focusing on our values, our passions, and our relationships rather than our possessions. It's about being agile and flexible, ready to adapt to whatever comes our way. Ultimately, traveling light is about freedom. It's about the freedom to choose our own path, to make our own decisions, to shape our own destiny. It's about the freedom to be ourselves, without the weight of unnecessary possessions or burdensome thoughts holding us down. And so, I invite you to consider this philosophy of traveling light. To consider what you might be able to let go of, to lighten your load and make your journey through life a little bit easier. Because in the end, the lightest load is the one that's filled with what truly matters. We've spoken about the dangers of excess material possession, using the cautionary tale of King Midas. But what we haven't discussed yet is the psychological burden that can also weigh us down. Anxiety about the future, dwelling on the past, harboring negative emotions, all these are mental weights that can be just as heavy as physical possessions, sometimes even more so. Imagine your mind as a suitcase. Now, we all know what happens when we overpack a suitcase. It becomes too heavy to carry, too difficult to manage. Similarly, when we fill our minds with unnecessary anxieties and worries, they become too heavy to carry. We all have worries. We worry about our jobs, our relationships, our health. We worry about the future, about our loved ones, about the state of the world. But what purpose do these worries serve? Do they help us deal with the challenges we face, or do they merely make these challenges seem bigger and more daunting than they really are? The truth is, most of the things we worry about never actually happen. Our minds have a tendency to focus on the worst-case scenarios, to imagine all the things that could go wrong. But these are just thoughts, not realities. They are not facts, but fabrications of our minds. Regrets about the past can also weigh us down. We replay our mistakes over and over again in our minds, punishing ourselves for things we can't change. But what does this achieve? Does it change the past? Does it help us make better decisions in the future? Or does it merely keep us stuck in a cycle of guilt and regret? Negative emotions too can be burdensome. Anger, resentment, jealousy, sadness. We all experience these emotions from time to time. But when we hold on to them, when we let them define us, they can become heavy weights that hold us back. So how do we lighten our mental load? How do we let go of these burdensome thoughts and emotions? This is where the wisdom of philosophical systems like Stoicism and Buddhism can be of help. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control and to accept what we can't. Instead of worrying about things that are out of our hands, we can focus on our actions and attitudes, on how we respond to the challenges we face. Buddhism, too, emphasizes the importance of letting go. It teaches us that our attachments to specific thoughts and emotions are the root of our suffering. By learning to let go, we can relieve ourselves of this suffering and find peace and contentment. Both these philosophies remind us that life is transient. Our circumstances can change in an instant. Our worries and regrets are about things that are already gone or have not yet happened. By focusing on the present moment, by accepting it as it is, we can find freedom from our mental burdens. In my own life, I've found that traveling light is not just about reducing physical clutter. It's also about learning to let go of the mental clutter, the unnecessary worries and negative emotions that can cloud our minds. By learning to let go, I found a sense of peace and contentment that I never thought was possible. I've found that by freeing my mind from its burdens, I'm able to focus on the things that truly matter, the things that bring joy and fulfillment to my life. And so, I encourage you to explore this idea of traveling light. To consider not just what physical possessions you can let go of, but also what mental burdens you can release. Because in the end, the lightest load is not the one that's free of material possessions, but the one that's free of worries, desires, and aversions. A minimalist lifestyle means nothing if the mind is still burdened. It's not just about having less, but about being more present, more mindful, more at peace. So, let's journey together, traveling light through life. After all, as the saying goes, the best traveler is the one who knows how to travel with the lightest load. We've delved into the concept of traveling light, both physically and mentally. We've talked about the dangers of obsessing over material possessions, as King Midas did, and the burden of mental clutter, such as worries, negative emotions, and regrets. But it doesn't stop there. This philosophy extends into every aspect of life. Let's take a closer look at how different philosophical systems, such as Stoicism and Buddhism, emphasize this ability to let go. Stoicism, a philosophy that originated in ancient Greece, teaches that happiness comes from accepting the moment as it presents itself, and not allowing oneself to be controlled by our desires for pleasure or our fear of pain. It's about understanding what we can control and what we can't. The Stoics believe that by focusing our energy on our character and behavior, which are within our control, rather than on our circumstances or others' opinions, which are not, we can achieve a sense of calm and tranquility. Visualize the Stoic sage, unperturbed by external circumstances, carrying nothing but his virtue. He is not weighed down by the past or the future because he knows they are outside his control. His baggage is light because he only carries what is necessary for his journey. This is the essence of traveling light, carrying only what serves us and leaving behind what does not. Buddhism, on the other hand, emphasizes the impermanence of all things. It teaches us that attachment, whether to material possessions, ideas, or even our own self-image, is the root of all suffering. The Buddha taught that the path to enlightenment involves letting go of these attachments, thereby freeing ourselves from the cycle of suffering. Imagine a Buddhist monk with nothing but a robe and a bowl, free from the burden of possessions and desires. He travels light, not because he is poor, but because he understands that happiness does not come from having, but from being. He carries with him only what is necessary for his spiritual journey, leaving everything else behind. But what does all of this mean for us? How can we apply these principles in our daily lives? How can we start traveling light? The first step is to examine what we're carrying. Is it necessary? Does it serve us, or does it weigh us down? These questions are not just for our physical possessions, but for our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs as well. The second step is to start letting go. This doesn't mean we have to give up everything we own or become emotionless. It's about detachment, about not letting our possessions or emotions control us. It's about realizing that we are not our possessions, our job titles, our successes, or our failures. Remember, traveling light is a journey, not a destination. It's a constant process of examining, letting go, and moving forward. And with every step, with every burden we shed, we become lighter, freer, more present. So, let's take the wisdom of the Stoics and the Buddhists and start traveling light. Let's let go of our heavy baggage, the material possessions we don't need, the thoughts and emotions that don't serve us, and journey on, light and free. Because in the end, the lightest load is not the one that's free of material possessions, but the one that's free of worries, desires, and aversions. And remember, a minimalist lifestyle means nothing if the mind is still burdened. As we journey through life, let's remember that the best traveler is not the one who carries the most, but the one who carries the least. The one who knows how to let go, to travel light. Because in the end, it's not about how much we have, but about how much we enjoy. And the lighter our load, the more freely we can enjoy the journey. We've looked at different philosophical systems that encourage us to shed our physical and mental baggage. Now, let's turn our attention to the psychological burdens we carry, those recurring thoughts, the worries about the future, and the negative emotions that keep us anchored in the past. These burdens, invisible yet immensely heavy, are what truly prevent us from traveling light. One of the heaviest burdens we carry is our past. The past, with its regrets, its mistakes, its missed opportunities, can weigh us down like a lead anchor. We carry around these memories, these regrets, these if only, and what if scenarios, and they keep us from fully living in the present. We're constantly looking back, trying to change things that are unchangeable, and this only leads to frustration and unhappiness. The same is true for our worries about the future. We carry around these anxieties, these fears of what might happen, these what if scenarios, and they keep us from fully living in the present. We're constantly looking forward, trying to predict and control things that are unpredictable and uncontrollable. And this, too, only leads to stress and unease. Then there are the recurring negative thoughts that can spin around in our head like a hamster on a wheel. These can be thoughts about ourselves, about others, or about the world in general. They can be judgments, criticisms, or fears. And they, too, can weigh us down, making it difficult for us to move forward. The key to traveling light, then, is to let go of these psychological burdens. But how? The first step is awareness. We need to recognize these burdens for what they are, unnecessary and unhelpful. The past is gone, the future is not yet here, and the negative thoughts are just that, thoughts. They are not reality. Next is acceptance. Accept the past for what it was, accept the future for what it will be, and accept your thoughts and emotions without judgment. This doesn't mean that you have to like them, agree with them, or keep them. It simply means acknowledging their presence. Lastly, let go. Release the past, release the future, release the negative thoughts. This doesn't mean forgetting or suppressing them. It means allowing them to be, without holding on to them. Imagine them as leaves floating on the surface of a river, and let them float away. Now, I'm not suggesting this is easy. It's not. Letting go of psychological burdens can be one of the hardest things you'll ever do. But it's also one of the most liberating. I personally experienced this liberation when I began to shed my own psychological burdens. I realized that I had been carrying around so much regret about the past, so much anxiety about the future, so many negative thoughts about myself and others, and it was all weighing me down, holding me back. But as I started to let go, I started to feel lighter, freer. I started to live more in the present, to enjoy the journey more. And that's the beauty of traveling light. It not only makes the journey easier, but it also makes it more enjoyable. It allows us to be more agile, more flexible, more open to new experiences and opportunities. It gives us the freedom to change direction, to take a detour, to stop and smell the roses. It allows us to focus on the journey rather than the destination. And ultimately, isn't that what life's all about? So now that we have an understanding of the psychological burdens we carry and the importance of releasing them, let's delve into some philosophical systems that have long recognized the value of traveling light in life. Two such systems that come to mind are Stoicism and Buddhism, both of which advocate for a lighter, more centered existence. Stoicism, An ancient Greek philosophy teaches us that we can't control many of the things that happen to us, but we can control how we respond to them. It is a philosophy of self-discipline, reason, and resilience. The Stoics believed that by focusing solely on what we can control, namely, our thoughts, actions, and reactions, we can achieve peace of mind and live a good life. This is traveling light. It's about letting go of the things outside of our control, those burdens that we often take up, that contributes nothing but stress and anxiety to our lives. Moving on to Buddhism, it is a philosophical system that promotes detachment from worldly desires and the cultivation of inner peace. It teaches us the Four Noble Truths: the truth of suffering, the truth of the cause of suffering, the truth of the end of suffering, and the truth of the path that leads to the end of suffering. Much of this suffering, according to Buddhism, comes from our attachments to people, to possessions, to ideas, to our own ego. It is only by letting go of these attachments, by traveling light, that we can achieve nirvana, a state of perfect peace and happiness. Both Stoicism and Buddhism underline the significance of a minimalist approach to life. They both emphasize the need to let go, to detach ourselves from material possessions and focus on the quality of our thoughts, actions, and reactions. This is not to say we should completely abandon our material possessions or our relationships, but rather to not let these things define us or control us. These philosophical systems teach us to be content with what we have, to find joy in the simple things, and to cease the endless pursuit of more. They teach us to live in the present moment, to fully experience and appreciate life as it happens, rather than always looking back to the past or forward to the future. They teach us the power of acceptance, accepting things as they are, accepting others as they are, and most importantly, accepting ourselves as we are. In applying these philosophies to my own life, I found a sense of freedom I never thought possible. I started to realize that the less I had, the less I had to worry about. I found that by letting go of my attachments, my fears, my anxieties, I was free to experience life as it is, without the weight of unnecessary burdens. And it was in this lightness that I found joy, peace, and fulfillment. So, consider what these philosophical systems have to offer. Consider the possibility of traveling light, of letting go of the things that weigh you down, the material possessions, the psychological burdens, the attachments. Because in the end, it's not about having more, it's about being more. It's about being present, being content, being free. It's about living a life of quality, not quantity. It's about traveling light, in every sense of the word. Following this journey through the wisdom of Stoicism and Buddhism, and reflecting on my own experiences, it's clear that to truly travel light through life, we must cultivate a light mind. This means a mind free of excessive worries, desires, aversions, and attachments. It is not enough merely to limit our material possessions. While it's true that this can contribute to a more minimalist lifestyle, and indeed, there is much to be said for the freedom and simplicity that comes with owning less, we must also strive for a minimalist mind. This means clearing out the clutter, the unnecessary thoughts, the negative emotions, and the harmful patterns of thinking that keep us stuck in a cycle of stress and discontentment. A light mind is a calm mind, a mind at peace. It doesn't get caught up in the drama and chaos of life. Instead, it observes, it learns, it grows. It doesn't hold on to past hurts or future worries. Instead, it stays present, fully engaged in the here and now. It doesn't get swept away by desires or aversions. Instead, it practices acceptance, gratitude, and contentment. A light mind is also a compassionate mind, a loving mind. It does not judge or criticize, but rather, it understands and empathizes. It gives freely, loves deeply, and forgives easily. It seeks to lift others up, to spread joy and kindness wherever it goes. In my own journey of traveling light, I've found that cultivating a light mind is perhaps the most challenging, but also the most rewarding part. It's a continuous process, a lifelong journey. But every step I take, every burden I release, every attachment I let go of, brings me closer to a state of peace, joy, and freedom that I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. Traveling light through life is not about deprivation or sacrifice. It's not about denying ourselves the good things in life. On the contrary, it's about creating space for more of what truly matters. More love, more joy, more peace, more fulfillment. It's about cutting out the noise so we can hear the music. It's about clearing away the clouds so we can see the sunshine. It's about letting go of the heavy burdens so we can fly. So, my friends, as we journey through life, let us travel light. Let us shed the unnecessary burdens, the material possessions, the psychological baggage. Let us cultivate a light mind, a peaceful heart, and a free spirit. Let us embrace the philosophy of minimalism, not just in our homes and our belongings, but also in our minds and our hearts. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you found this content valuable, do subscribe to the channel and like this video. Your support goes a long way in helping us spread these messages. Remember, life is a journey, and the lighter we travel, the further we can go. So pack light, live light, spread the light, and be the light. Until next time.